If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hey everybody, Atlas here. I'm here to show you a Kagero deck profile that some people in the Nexus at Night Discord helped me come up with. If you would like to join the Nexus at Night Discord, you can help support the show, patreon.com/Nexus at Night. $1 a month helps support the show, and you get exclusive access to the Discord. There's higher tiers with bonus shows and crap. Anyway, I'm here to match the crazy looking star and start talking about some dragons and mercenaries and stuff. So let's get into it. Here we have a Eugene deck in Premium, which I know sounds crazy. If you remember the Spice Decks video from last year where I talked about how you can use Eugene's effect to fill your soul and then use, I think, Dragon Knight Nazari, the name was, to like rip 6 cards out of the opponent's hand. Well, now that's gone. So instead, what I decided to do was use Eugene in conjunction with this new Grade 1 Oswald that allows you to restand your Vanguard after, when it boosts. You can discard, stand your Vanguard, and then increase its crit and drive to 1 until end of turn. So that's a very, restrictive kind of restand, but the point isn't so much for using it for card advantage. You're using it to gain more attacks. Also, that's a pretty cheap restand. It's a 1 discard for a Vanguard restand. Usually, restands are like drop 3 or drop 2. So I think that's pretty good. So let's get into the cards here. We have 4 copies of the boy, of Eugene. Eugene's effect almost never comes into play, but the effect where you can check top 5 and call a new board for open rearguard circles can happen. I don't think it's incredibly important, but you're mostly using it for the name, and then you have multiple copies for Persona Ride, which is always a good effect. And then you could rest 2 rearguards and then blow something up and give him 10k. It doesn't matter, you're striding on top of him. There's 2 copies of Virina Esperita. So one of Kagero's biggest problems as a clan is that their rearguards don't really do anything. Like, a lot of them are just things like, alright, blow something up, and then that's it. Or they get power from blowing something up. So Virina is one of the few instances from outside the clan itself. You go into the Dragon Empire Nation to get a restanding rearguard, which is when your Vanguard attacks, you can Soul Blast and restand them. So this is just a very good card to be restanding. I had it at 3 originally, but I ended up cutting it down just for the rest of the cards in the deck that allow for consistency. It's also cheaper. 4 copies of Travis, which is when something dies during this turn. So that can be during the opponent's turn too, if they retire their own rearguard by something, or you denial griffin something. You counterblast, soul charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, blow it up so that chains, and then he gets plus 10k until end of turn. So that's a very easy hitting for 20k off of very little work. So nice rearguard to use. And then also 4 copies of Dustin, which is when played on rearguard. If you have Eugene as your Vanguard, put a card from hand, soul, draw, blow something up, and then when he attacks, he gets bigger for each open circle the opponent has. So as the game goes on, your opponent is probably not going to be filling up their rearguards as much, which means that these cards get more bonuses for the empty circles. Dustin is just such a good card for cycling, and it kind of sucks that he doesn't really work until turn 3, but it's not really that big of a deal. One thing that I'm kind of wary of in this build is that there's only 8 grade 2s, which means that riding could be a problem. If that's the case, you might want to find you can shave off little bits and try and run copies of a grade 2 that might fit you. I ran Berserk Dragon in my original list, but shout out to Visis, who you might have seen on the new Batama Vita Premium transition, he helped come up, he came up with this version of the deck. Now, there's only 8 grade 2s, but I don't think that's a huge deal. Oswald that I brought up before, so after he boosts a Vanguard with Eugene, if the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, so you're striding, of course. Counterblast, discard, stand your Vanguard, it gets, it crit and drive decreased to 1. This is used with 2 particular strides that I'll go over later, but this is kind of the reason I decided to build the deck in the first place, and I think it's pretty neat. 4 copies of his shot. So when placed on rear, Counterblast, Soul Blast, draw a card, blow something up in the back row. So that helps you get to that empty field that a lot of the Eugene cards are trying to go for. And then when you ride on top of him, check top 5, reveal a grade 3 or greater, put it in your hand and shuffle. So you can grab Eugene, you can grab Virena Esperata, because that's grade 3 or greater, and you can grab a Heal Guardian, because Kagero has some bomb-ass G-Guards. Real good card that I didn't have in my original list that I think Vices had a good idea picking this. This is another thing he brought up. Volentruber Dragon. So at the beginning of your main phase, if your opponent has no rear guards, you can call this card to rear guard circle from Soul, so it can help you make a board. That doesn't happen all that much, but it's good for like just the, I need something to put in Soul. Put Volentruber. You might have that be, come up later. And then act on rear guard circle. You can counterblast 1, blow them up. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire all opponent's rear guards with the same grade as that unit. Going against Excel decks, they tend to have a lot of the same grade, usually 2, right? Like Gold Paladin, things of that nature. So being able to go, all right, I choose grade 2, retire all of your grade 2s. So it's a lot of value. 4 copies of Lava Flow Dragon, so he's an easy 13k base, being that you just have to have more rear guards than your opponent. And it helps you search again for Eugene or your Heal Guardian. It doesn't let you get Esperata because it's only grade 3s that you can grab off the top 5. I feel like this version of the card that every clan has is one of those things that's going to be sticking around, I think, forever. I think if you ever pick up a clan, this is a thing you want to get a 4 of, just to have in V or Premium. 3 copies of Airmo. So this was also debated with another card from GBT01. What was the name on that? It was Energy Flame Athonic. So they kind of have the same effect. So Airmo's effect is when an opponent's rear guard is blown up during your turn, you can retire him, draw, and countercharge. So you lose the Airmo, but you get the card in hand and a countercharge. Whereas Atonic, god damn it, Atonic goes into Soul, so you get a Soul, but you don't get a draw, so they don't cycle for each other. It's a -1 card advantage-wise. But you do get a Soul, and you do get an extra counter charge. So I think that's something to consider. Airmo also makes a better booster. He's just an 11k booster. I'm going with this in the meantime, because it's easier to track down. I'll go over the part of the reason I decided to make this list up, because it's very stupid. I'll go over that at the end. But yeah, 3 Airmo. You got your starter, you got your Heal Guardian, you have 4 of each crit, the Stride crit and the Shove and Soul draw crit. 3 of your draw PGs, there's your Elementaria, there's your restanding, Overtrigger. I think you can get away with running the vanilla one, just because almost everything in this deck restands. Oswald is made to restand the Vanguard, a bunch of your Vanguards restand on their own. Why the hell not? But let's get into the G-Zone. You have Barakats, which is when he attacks, turn something face up. If your opponent has 3 or more open rearguard circles, he gets plus 10k and a crit and a drive until end of that battle. And then if they have 5 or more open rearguard circles, all of your rearguards get plus 10 until end of turn. So that means he's hitting for 4. If you then restand him with Oswald, he goes down to 1. And then with his effect, because that's not once per turn, he's hitting for 2. So that's 6 drive checks in a turn. The plus 10k to your rear guards is for the entire turn, so that's now 20k. So that's a pretty big deal. I think this is and there's no counterblast involved in this. This is just free. So I really like him. Then there's 3 copies of Dumjid Valor. So this is what a lot of Kagero decks go into. Blaze, for those who don't know, is a keyword that the start of your battle for that card, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, your Vanguard becomes blazing. It's like a state. So the first effect is when you play him, counterblast, flip something, blow up one of the opponent's rearguards, and he gets plus, Dumjid Valor gets 15k for each Sentinel in your drop zone. That means it's less chance of happening with Sanctitude, because Sanctitude removes itself, something to keep in mind. But when your opponent's Sentinel or G-Guard is placed, you can stand him if he's blazing, and then he gets drive -1 until end of turn. So that means you can swing with him, stand him on his own, and he's hitting he's got twin drive, and then swing with him again, and then use Oswald, stand him again, swing for 1. So that's 3 attacks with the Vanguard. So that's the other way you want to use the card. Other G-Guards, you got 2 copies of Zanbus Dragon, which just blows your board. It gives 10k. 2 copies of Ziegenberg. This is the most expensive card in the deck. Outside of Dismal and Galga and Drachma, which aren't needed, by the way. You're not tied to them. You can run other stuff. Ziegenberg is the most expensive card in the deck. So Soul Blast, flip something face up, blow something up. And then GB3 at the end of the battle, he attacked if he's blazing. So again, more rearguards than the opponent. You discard the same number of cards as the number of rearguards the opponent has. So if they have 0, you don't discard anything. Stand him, he gets drive -2. So you swing for 3, discard nothing, hopefully. Restand him. He's got 1 drive check, swing again. Boosted by Oswald, stand him again, swing again. And it's a really good card. Ziegenberg has been around for a long time. It's a nice 2 of. In terms of G-Guards, Kagero has some of the best G-Guards in the entire game. You have Denial Griffin, which is like an effect in and of itself. That card is a Denial Griffin. So when somebody's attacking, counterblast 1, blow it up. Very, very good against some decks. And is just a very good card. And also very cheap. It's like $1 right now. At the time of recording this, it's January 20th, 2023. It's like $1.97 on TCG Player. There's this new guy, which is for each open rearguard the opponent has, the cost is reduced by 1, which is Soul Blast 1, discard 4. So if they have 4 open circles, that's just a Soul Blast. It's just a perfect card. I like that a lot of the Kagero G-Guards, they're just like, whatever, blow it up, make it a perfect guard, we don't care. Absalom gets 10k for each open circle that the opponent has while attacking with their Vanguard, so that can get pretty huge. Usually opponents leave the back row unattended, so that means he is a 45k guard, which is a big deal. If you don't want to run Dismal, which protects your rear guards all the way, just run a second Absalom, real nice card, or run more copies of Selima or Denial Griffin. Gilgal and Drachma are kind of just there because they're there. In terms of like what your stride game is looking like, you're going into Barakats and Dumjid Val all the time from turn 4 onward. And I think this is a really neat deck. I think it's also incredibly cheap. I looked this up. If you get it off TCG Player at around the time of doing this, it's about $100, and that's because of Ziegenberg. If your shop can hook you up, or they let you root through their commons, they usually have a lot of these cards for pretty cheap. Or like, we have shiny cards that aren't very expensive. Get your lava flows from there, stuff like that. You can make this deck for insanely cheap, and that is why I'm talking about it on our channel, because I think it's a neat deck, and I kind of want to try putting it together because of how cheap it is, and play it maybe. We'll see, though. So that's the deck profile. Leave a like, leave a comment below. Tell us what you think of it. What changes would you add? Have you tried using an overdressed boss in Premium? Let me know. And thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time.